My name is Nancy, and I'm 32 years old. I work in an administrative role at a small to medium-sized company while also managing my responsibilities at home. My husband, Damon, and I met through mutual friends, and we've been married for 3 years now. The initial excitement and thrill of our marriage have faded, but we've been spending our time together peacefully without major issues, at least when it's just the two of us. Nancy, did you make this miso soup with broth? It has no flavor at all. Did you properly use kelp and bonito flakes? Damon asked one evening. I'm sorry, but the cleaning of the entrance and bathroom wasn't perfect either. What kind of upbringing did you have? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, I understand, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. During the holidays in May, I was expected to accompany Damon to his parents' home, where my mother-in-law, Cathy, assigned me household chores. Every holiday, I'm taken to Damon's parents' house and made to do tasks, constantly criticized and nitpicked over every little mistake. My father-in-law, Mike, and Damon are usually engrossed in newspapers or their smartphones, completely ignoring Cathy's behavior. I'm sorry, Damon said on our way home, trying to comfort me. My mother has always been talkative, but she seems very lively when you visit, so I think she might actually be happy. It felt off the mark. Cathy was probably lively because she could freely complain about me. Seeing my friends around me also troubled by similar mother-in-law issues, I convinced myself that this was normal. I believed that if I endured it, the problem would be resolved one day. When my husband's elder brother Jack got married, it introduced a new dynamic. Jack has a reserved personality, contrasting sharply with Damon, and our interactions had always been limited to mere greetings. Jack's bride, Meg, was a young and beautiful woman, significantly younger than him. It was a bit surprising to think of them as a married couple, but Cathy was elated, saying, "That's our Jack, managing to get such a young bride." This new year would be the first with Jack and Meg present. They had been busy with work until the end of the year and planned to visit right after the new year. As such, I had been staying at my in-laws' house since New Year's Eve, and Cathy assigned me even more chores than usual. Nancy, are you still cleaning? If you keep going at this pace, the year will end. Please prepare the soba noodles quickly. Understood, I replied. Oh, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Since the bride is young, I'll have to educate her properly, Cathy said, clearly excited. I let out a small sigh. From my position as a fellow daughter-in-law, I felt more sympathy than gratitude. Tomorrow, I decided, I would actively support Meg. With that determination, I wrung out the cloth in the cold bucket of water. The next day around noon, Jack and Meg arrived. Meg, although glamorous in appearance, acted politely, and I found her likable. However, it seemed like Cathy was working hard to find any tiny flaw in her. I thought she was desperate because the first impression of Meg was crucial. Nancy, prepare the tea quickly and set up the New Year's dishes as well. Understood. Nancy, please help out too, Meg said, her eyes widening in surprise as she headed toward the living room. It's always been customary for daughters-in-law to be in the kitchen, hasn't it, Mother? Jack interjected. Just sit down, Meg, and leave your luggage at the entrance. Cathy, with her piercing gaze, pulled Meg into the kitchen after telling me, make sure to educate her properly before returning to the living room. With a grin, I approached the bewildered Meg. It's tough on your first visit, isn't it? In this house, the daughter-in-law prepares everything for the guests. The teapot is over there, and the teacups are around here. As I showed her around the kitchen, Meg stared at me in astonishment. Nancy, how do you know where everything is in someone else's kitchen? She asked. I handle most of the housework when I'm here, I replied. I see. So in this house, the daughter-in-law doesn't get to eat until everyone else is finished, and until then, she focuses on preparing the dishes. That's right. Meg's eyes widened, and she suddenly raised her voice so loudly it made my ears ring. What? Cathy quickly rushed in from the living room. What happened? Meg, still shocked, turned to her. Cathy, I'm appalled. Is this how you welcome me, with instant bullying? Huh? Cathy was taken aback as Meg approached her, forcing her to step back slightly. This is definitely bullying. Making the daughter-in-law do all the work and not even letting her eat. It's like I'm watching an old drama. I can't believe mothers-in-law like this still exists. I feel like I need to protect myself. What are you talking about? Cathy stammered. Cathy, is bullying your daughter-in-law a tradition in this house? Do you feel an urge to torment the woman who stole your son? That's not bullying, it's a lesson, Cathy said, her lips quivering. making the daughter-in-law do all the housework and not even letting her eat. Is that what you call lesson? Meg retorted. Nancy, what do you think? Caught off guard by this sudden question, I hesitated. Meg, with a detective-like enthusiasm, tapped her forehead and circled the kitchen. If it's a lesson, is it recommended by the Board of Education? Are schools teaching that daughters-in-law should eat last? I've never heard of that. Well, I guess, I mumbled, overwhelmed by her persistence. Meg gave a bright smile and looked back at Cathy. When Cathy arrived, I wondered if she saw herself as a charming lady meant to pass down the tradition of tormenting daughters-in-law to the next generation. It was clear that Cathy was already panicking. Is this really the custom around here? Maybe we should ask the neighbors, Cathy suggested. How about we go next door and find out? That's enough, Meg interrupted firmly. Once the New Year's feast is ready, both of you should sit down promptly. Surprised by Meg's sudden assertiveness, Cathy was momentarily taken aback. Victory, Meg. Let's finish up quickly and have lunch together, she said, dropping her inquisitive demeanor. Meg smiled warmly, but Cathy eyed her sternly, clearly not pleased with how easily Meg had taken control of the situation. It was surprising to see Meg's unique logic so effectively overpower Cathy's usual dominance. The dynamic I had always taken for granted was starting to crumble before my eyes. Meg seemed so confident that I genuinely believed she might go and ask the neighbors about the custom. But this was just the beginning of a clash between Meg and Cathy. I knew Cathy, despite being initially overwhelmed, wouldn't give up easily. When we finally sat down at the table, Damon and Mike looked astonished, as always, saying nothing. Jack seated Meg beside him, visibly relieved. Cathy, having recovered from the earlier incident, was now keenly observing Meg, waiting for her to slip up. Despite the tension, Meg remained calm. This is delicious. Did you make all of this, Nancy? She asked. Yes, I did, I replied. I absolutely love your stew and steak, Meg complimented with genuine enthusiasm. I would crave these dishes all year round, Meg said, her youthful charm warming my heart and making me smile, something rare in my in-laws' house. As we ate, Meg reached for the soy sauce, only to find the bottle empty. It seems we're out of soy sauce. I'll go get it, she said. Thank you, Jack, she added with a smile as he got up to fetch it. Cathy, unable to resist, made a pointed comment. Making your husband do such tasks reveals a lot about your upbringing. Meg, surprised by Cathy's remark, quickly responded in a way that caught her off guard. A phrase like that reveals a lot about your upbringing too, she replied. Cathy gasped at Meg's retort. I've never heard of such a phrase before. It's surprising that people still use expressions like that in the 21st century. What do you think, Jack? Meg turned to him, mimicking a news anchor. Jack chuckled and said, It feels like something from history. Maybe it should be reported for its academic value. Cathy's eyes widened in disbelief. Setting the joke aside, Jack then said seriously, This is my home. It's natural for me to help out. Making Meg do everything is such an outdated way of thinking. Outdated, the word left Cathy speechless once again. The atmosphere felt different from when it was just Cathy and me. Damon and Mike stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to do, while Jack and Meg happily enjoyed the New Year's dishes and sashimi. Watching them, a different emotion began to well up inside me. After lunch, as I was relaxing in the Japanese-style guest room following the cleanup, Cathy slid open the door with a scowl on her face. Nancy, what about babies? She asked. This was a topic she always brought up. It seemed she targeted me at this moment to avoid confronting Meg. Somehow, the situation felt almost comical, and the usual discomfort I felt began to fade. I felt a slight relief, though not completely at ease. Have you consulted a doctor? Cathy pressed. Yes, I have, I replied. The doctor said there's no problem on my end. Then what's the issue? You're not suggesting the problem lies with my son, are you? Normally, I would have ended the conversation there, but today was different. I've been thinking that Damon should also get tested, I said, straightforwardly voicing what I had kept to myself for so long. Cathy, used to my usual compliance, was stunned, momentarily frozen as her face paled. How foolish can you be, Nancy? Testing my son? There's no way he could have a problem. Understand this, if a child isn't conceived, it's the wife's fault. So if there's no issue with you, conception should be easy. How dare you blame your husband for your own inadequacies? How shameless. Excuse me, if you're childless for 3 years, you should leave. What's the point of having a barren woman as a wife? Cathy spat out the words, her voice dripping with disdain. Just then, Meg appeared behind Cathy, who let out a startled, croaky shriek of surprise. I was startled too, but I was glad Meg was there. Her presence was a welcome relief, a reminder that I didn't have to conform to the strange norms of my in-laws. She had always told me that there was no need to follow bizarre rules, especially when they weren't normal. It was okay to point out the oddities, to stand up for myself. Today, I wanted to match her strength. More than anything, I wanted freedom from this oppressive house. I've never heard the term stone woman before, Nancy. Did you know this difficult term? Meg asked, jestingly pointing an imaginary microphone at me. No, I replied, catching on to her playful tone. I first heard it from Cathy and looked it up on my smartphone. It means a woman made of stone, implying she can't get pregnant, like she's cold and lifeless. Meg nodded, then with a mischievous smile, added, Cathy is a living relic, a cultural heritage, isn't she? My heart raced, but I matched her pace and smiled. Sensing the change in my behavior, Meg beamed with approval. Mother, you're such a stereotypical mother-in-law, like a pro at tormenting your daughter-in-law. That's enough. Cathy finally lost it, bombarded with criticism and frustrated that she couldn't criticize me as she pleased. Hearing her outburst, Damon and Jack rushed in. Jack, what's with this woman with no common sense? Cathy demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Ignoring Cathy's enraged shout, Jack stood unwaveringly beside Meg. Aren't you the one lacking common sense, Mother? It's despicable to look down on someone else's daughter. I've endured my own hardships, haven't I? Isn't it my turn to make others suffer? Didn't Grandma pass away when I was just a child? How many years did you truly suffer? Your character and outdated values are your own doing, not Grandma's. Jack, is this woman the reason you're talking like this? This woman brings misfortune. Leave Jack and get out immediately, she demanded. It's not her, Mother. I've always disliked how emotional and self-centered you are. I could see my future wife suffering because of you, which is why I hesitated to marry. But Meg assured me it would be okay. If I'm to part with anyone, it would be you, not Meg, Jack replied, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a fierce defense of his wife. Tears welled up in my eyes at the sight of Jack's defiance. Cathy seemed taken aback by her son's boldness. Then I will leave and never return to this tormenting house, she said. Why should Jack also leave? You should stay here. You're my child, Cathy protested. Not anymore. Goodbye, Mother, Jack replied, picking up the luggage left by the entrance. Jack and Meg headed for the exit, but before leaving, Meg turned back and extended her hand to me. Nancy, would you like to come with us? She asked, her warm smile drawing me in. Thank you, I will, I responded, feeling a sense of relief. Nancy, my silent husband finally spoke up, but it didn't matter. I took only the essentials and left with Jack and Meg. They drove me away, leaving my in-laws' house behind. I'm sorry, Nancy, for speaking out of turn earlier. You must have thought it was strange, Meg said, sitting next to me in the back seat. It's okay, thanks to you and Jack, I feel relieved, I replied, grateful for their support. I replied with a smile, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. Meg's face, now free from the tension of earlier, looked serene. This must have been her true self. She had likely been trying to support me throughout the day. I'm sorry we couldn't intervene sooner, Meg said softly. I've always been concerned, but I wasn't sure if it was my place to interfere with Damon's marriage. Jack glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his expression a mix of apology and frustration. It's not your fault, I reassured him quickly. My brother, father, and I have long been troubled by my mother's personality. It's strange, but we've learned to ignore it. Maybe Damon felt a bit relieved when the focus shifted to you, but it's inexcusable that he didn't protect his own wife. Meg continued, as we discussed earlier, Jack wasn't keen on getting married, but I was determined to marry him. I deliberately chose to get on Cathy's bad side, though I would have preferred not to if she had treated me well. It was clear that Jack and Meg shared a deep respect and care for each other. Their relationship exemplified true marital harmony, clearing the doubts that had lingered in my mind. Thanks to both of you. I feel like I've come to understand who the real adversary is, I said. Jack smiled, a mix of relief and sadness in his eyes. If it helps, I'll give you the audio recordings later, everything from today, and all the instances of harassment we've recorded over the years. We kept them, hoping we'd never need to use them. Meg added, "We won't be visiting that toxic home again. But if you ever need anything, please reach out. We will always support you." Their presence strengthened my resolve. After they dropped me off, I decided to tidy up the room while waiting for Damon to return. He came home the following day around noon, and when he saw me, a look of relief crossed his face. "I'm back," he said, looking weary. "Last night was tough. Mom was really angry." "I see," I replied calmly. "But don't worry. I covered for you. I told her that Meg was just too hyper and you were surprised, so you left early. Please apologize to them the next time you see them." He continued, oblivious to the shift in my mood. "That woman, Meg, right? Jack sure picked a strange one. Does she not have any common sense? I'm really glad I chose you. A wife's worth isn't just about age, you know. Haha." I cut him off with a cold tone. "I realize now that choosing you was a huge mistake." He looked at me in shock, clearly not understanding the gravity of my words. As he stared into my angry eyes, the weight of the situation seemed to dawn on him. "I thought I might forgive you if you changed after seeing Jack and Meg," I said, "but you're no different from your mother. I'm so disappointed." "What do you mean? Haven't we been doing fine?" he asked, bewildered. "That's because I've been enduring it all alone," I said. "You've used me as a shield. No, as a sacrifice to escape from your mother. Just like your father, who acts like he's invisible, you did the same thing." "Sacrifice? I didn't mean it like that," he stammered, sweat forming on his forehead in the cold room where the heater seemed ineffective. He looked completely frazzled and pitiable. "I mistakenly believed you were on my side because you always covered for me," I said. "But after seeing Jack, I realized that if you truly cared for me, you wouldn't have taken me to such a distressing place. And even if you did, shouldn't a husband protect his wife?" He started to protest. I felt Cathy's harassment was severe, but now I see clearly. My real enemy was you all along. I came to this realization thanks to Jack and Meg. "But Nancy," he pleaded, "it's over. Even Cathy said there's no point in me being there. Let's do as she says. I've downloaded a divorce form from the website. Here." I picked up my packed luggage and headed for the door. "While you were gone for the night, I already sent the larger luggage via delivery service." "Wait, Nancy, goodbye," he called out, but I paid no heed to his pitiful cries as I left. I confidently walked out of the house I had called home for so long. With the New Year holidays behind me, I immediately sought the assistance of a divorce lawyer. Determined never to return to that place, I entrusted all the legal matters to a seasoned attorney. Cathy and Damon were clearly taken aback by the lawyer I had engaged. Thanks to the recorded evidence provided by Jack, the divorce proceedings unfolded smoothly. Cathy, still bitter, said, "I'll find a better, more fertile wife for you." My lawyer reassured me, saying, "She probably views a wife merely as a tool for the husband's family." 5 years later, as I watched Jessica play, I marveled at how far I had come. "Jessica, it's mealtime. Use your spoon properly and remember to blow on it," I instructed gently. Katie, Meg's kind and gentle 3-year-old daughter, was playing nearby, demonstrating her affection for Jessica. Despite having no blood relation, Katie and Jessica were as close as family. 3 years after the divorce, I had remarried and soon welcomed our daughter Jessica, proving I was not infertile. My new husband and his parents are warm-hearted and considerate, not only cherishing Jessica but also deeply caring for me as their daughter-in-law. Meg, true to her promise, supported me immensely during the divorce. Our bond, which began during the divorce, evolved into a deep friendship akin to that of sisters. Damon, on the other hand, has remarried once but faced another divorce soon after. Rumors of this troubled past have cast his home in a negative light, earning it the nickname Damon's House. Women are wary of the place, and despite occasional attempts by Damon and Cathy to reconcile or seek cohabitation, I have no intention of returning. Their refusal to acknowledge their mistakes may lead them to a future of loneliness. "Once Jessica can walk, let's go to that park," Meg suggested. "It has soft grass and is really relaxing." "That sounds wonderful," I replied. Meg and I exchanged smiles, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Despite the hardships with Damon, my life now is peaceful, and I am thankful that I took Meg's hand and embarked on a new future.